And can I just say I found Alec Rowley's contribution, as I often find Alec Rowley's contributions, to be measured and very interesting. And I think there were a lot of ideas there which it's not for me, presiding officer, to involve myself in the internal affairs of other political parties, but I would simply say to Mr Rowley that I understand that there may be a vacuum into which such positive ideas may well find a home. Can I thank the committee clerks, my fellow committee members, including our over-thanked convener this afternoon, who have steered us very much towards what I think is what has been recognised both inside and outside this chamber as a substantial piece of work. But beyond that, the range of witnesses who came before the committee, because if it wasn't for the high quality of evidence that we received as a committee, I don't think we would have been able to come to the substantial conclusions that we drew as a result. Other members have highlighted the public meetings that took place. I was only able to attend the public meeting in Aberdeen. And one of the things that surprised me at that public meeting, presiding officer, was that the lack of awareness amongst individuals, many of whom were extremely politically active, both in the referendum campaign but in politics in general, the lack of awareness around not just what was in the draft clauses that the UK government had brought forward, but what was actually recommended by the Smith Commission in the first place. And I think that ties into what my colleague Christine Graham was saying about the fact that the public were not part of the process and didn't see themselves as part of the process of the drawing up of the Smith Commission conclusions. Now, I know that the timetable was very much a victim of campaign rhetoric, and that the timetable that had been laid out during the course of the referendum campaign had to be adhered to for political reasons. But I do think it does give us pause that even those who you would consider to be politically aware were struggling to comprehend exactly what was on the table. There are a number of points in this debate that I think merit a little bit more examination. One is around the issue of the fiscal framework, which I think is absolutely vital. It's a very dry and technical area of the debate, but it's also an extremely important one. As well as being a member of the Devolution Further Powers Committee, I also have the pleasure of being a member of the Finance Committee, not a sentence that normally flows from the mouth of a member of the Finance Committee. But one of the things we've been doing on the Finance Committee is examining the issue around the fiscal framework. And I think that there are a number of issues that have been highlighted during our evidence taking, and which also came up during the evidence sessions at the Devolution Further Powers Committee, which need to be examined further. Those are around tax competition and tax gaming, and also the issue of no detriment. And I cannot emphasise enough the importance of getting a firm definition and understanding of no detriment and what it means, because we are seeing, I think, different interpretations, not just at governmental level, but also at academic level. And I know that there is hopefully going to be some work done to explore no detriment a little further, both in terms of its definition, but also in terms of its practical effects. But on the issue of gaming, one of the interesting pieces of evidence that we took was from Professor David Heald of Aberdeen University. And Professor Heald highlighted the autumn statement and what he saw as the disruptive potential of what the UK government does when it sets its tax policies. He said, "This Parliament, the Scottish Parliament, spent a long time trying to reform stamp duty, land tax and to produce a property tax that would be implementable by the beginning of April. But the UK Government has basically disrupted that implementation by suddenly changing the tax in the rest of the UK." And that, what I've referred to in committee evidence as the rabbit out of the hat approach that often happens at UK budget setting, I think we need to look at how that fits within the powers that are being devolved to this Parliament. On the issue of where we go from here and where we perhaps need to go further, I think one of the issues, and it covers the taxation element, and one of the areas where we took evidence, and one piece of written evidence from NUS Scotland, which I thought was very interesting, was around the issue of savings and dividends, because one of the concerns that they highlighted was that by only devolving non-savings taxes, Scottish Parliament is put in a precarious position for any future tax rises, and particularly the introduction of a higher rate of tax. As was seen in the year before the introduction of the 50p rate in 2010, and then in the year following the reduction to 45p, those who it affected were able to shift extremely large sums of money between years and between income and dividends. And there's a concern, I think, that were the powers not to be in possession of this Parliament, that could cause some difficulty. I think that's something that will merit a watchful eye and further examination as we go forward. We've heard mention of the STUC proposals, and I have to say that in yesterday's economy debate, I intervened on Jackie Baillie about whether the Labour Party were now going to come with us and with the STUC around the powers around employment law and the minimum wage. And in response to me, Jackie Baillie said, "I thank the member for his intervention. We will have an opportunity tomorrow to debate the full devolution package. I will also be speaking then, and I look forward to engaging with him on the substance of that issue." And I waited, and I waited, and I didn't hear whether or not Jackie Baillie and the Labour Party were going to go where STUC are clearly pushing for us to go. I can understand the reluctance of the Labour Party in advance of the referendum to make those commitments, because they were obviously hedging their bets on a Labour government coming to power. But now that we have the situation where we have a majority Tory government at Westminster, and the likely impact, I'm looking to the presiding officer to see if I can take that, okay, and the likely impact that that is going to have on trade unions, on employment law, on minimum wage, will Jackie Baillie now join with STUC and Scottish Government in supporting that devolution?
Allow Jackie Baillie to honour a commitment.
Presiding officer, had of course I had the 7 minutes that the member had instead of the 6 minutes, I would have been able to develop that point fully. But I am happy to consider any suggestions coming from that member.
Well, I'll give Jackie Baillie a suggestion, and the suggestion is that when I say, will you join with the STUC and the Scottish Government in demanding that these powers are devolved, Jackie Baillie should answer yes. So there is my constructive suggestion to the member for how we can proceed on this. Finally, presiding officer, if I may, when we look at what is coming forward, we obviously have the bill being published next week. It will be interesting to see whether the very constructive points the committee has raised are factored into that bill. If they are not, what I would like to hear in the closing speeches, particularly from the Conservative benches, but also from the Labour benches, is a commitment that they will lobby with us for Westminster to agree to amendments which will deliver the spirit and the substance of Smith. It is the very least that the Scottish people expect and deserve.
Thanks so much.